The Maori of New Zealand believe in the Petupaiarihi, also called the Tarehu or Pakepakeeha, fairy-like people who live deep in the forests and mountains. They have very pale skin. Despite the Petupaiarihi, which appears on the New Zealand postage stamp above being blue, and either red or light blonde hair, most stories say they're very small, though some descriptions indicate they are the size of humans or giants. These creatures are rarely seen, as they stay out of the light, only emerging during the twilight. If they met people, they would sometimes play their flutes and put the human under their spell. They would sleep with beautiful women, so some believe that the redheads are descended from the Petupaiarihi. If they met a man, they would either abuse him and let him go or kill him. To avoid meeting them, people would cover themselves in stinky concoctions or cook food, since fire and light kept the creatures away. However, sometimes the Petupaiarihi would teach human spells and other useful skills. The Maori also have tales of the Ponaturi. These creatures look like the Petupaiarihi, except they have claws and live in the ocean. The Norwegian Nisa and the Swedish Tomta are very similar characters. They usually live solitary lives on farms, staying out of sight of the farmer, but taking care of the buildings and the animals. Often they are pictured as small men, the height of a child, with red hats and worn-out clothing. They work very hard to make sure the farm is well kept, especially focusing on making the horses comfortable. In return for their work, the creatures only demand respect and a bowl of porridge with butter on Christmas Eve. This bowl is supposed to be left out in the barn so that the creature can eat it in peace. Many Native American tribes had stories about little people, so many that they actually deserve their own list. For example, the Mohegans believed in the Makia Wisuk, small people who lived below Mohegan Hill in Connecticut. They are nice if they're taken care of, so the Mohegans would leave them baskets of food. They were not to be spoken about during the summer when they were active, and not to be stared at. Otherwise, they would freeze you and steal your things. In return for good food and respect, the Makia Wisuk taught the Mohegans how to grow corn and use healing plants, and they kept the earth fertile. The Ekasoni in Canada believed in little people, thinking that most of them lived on the hill in Nova Scotia. Children were told not to go near it, lest they be stolen. The Shoshone tribe believed in little people called the Meiraga, who lived in the Rocky Mountains. They were not very friendly, using bows and poisoned arrows to keep trespassers away. The Shakta called them Kawinkosha. These people were feared and supposedly kidnapped boys to test them and figure out their nature. The Cherokee tribe believed in 3 different types of little people: the Laurels, the Rocks, then the Dogwoods. They ranged from being good and helpful to being purely malicious. The Crow tribe called their little people the Narumbi. They supposedly lived in the Pryor Mountains. In Flores, Indonesia, they have tales of people they call the Abu Gogo. Abu means grandmother, and Gogo means he who eats everything. They supposedly do eat everything they can get a hold of, not bothering to cook anything but eating it all raw. This covers fruits, vegetables, and meat, including human meat, if they manage to get it. As they use plates made from pumpkins on the island, they would eat those too, if villagers served them food. Some people have theorized that these creatures are not purely fictional, rather that they are based on Homo floresiensis, an extinct species that lived on Flores and looked like a short human. The Noongar of Australian Aboriginals have tales of the Wurundjeri. These people look like Aboriginals, but they are only around 30 centimeters, 1 foot tall. One claimed sighting says that Wurundjeri had a big bushy beard and only wore a loincloth. They traveled with spears and other traditional weapons. If a human comes across them, the Wurundjeri might attack, as they can be quite violent. Any wounds sustained from a meeting like this will disappear as soon as the human leaves the area. In Slavic folklore, they have house spirits called domovoi. They look like a small man with either a beard or hair all over. Some stories say that they end up looking like the owner of their house, just with a gray beard and sometimes also a tail or horns. These spirits live behind the oven and protect the house, its inhabitants, and their animals. Every house has one, but it is never seen. Instead, people are only aware of it through the noises it makes, such as those footsteps or murmuring. To keep the domovoi happy, people would leave milk or bread in a corner near the oven. When the domovoi feels respected, he does his best to protect the family, but if they upset him, he causes mischief. He does so by riding their horses or cows all night so that they're too tired to work during the day, tripping them in the dark, or making milk go bad. If people moved, the domovoi would come with them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be safe. In West Africa, the Dahomey people have stories about the Aziza, tiny forest-dwelling fairy-like creatures. They look like regular humans, but they're incredibly small and have wings that look like those of an insect. These magical creatures are purely nice and help out humans who are hunting. They also taught people how to make fire back when humanity didn't have the knowledge. In return, people would leave out fresh food for the Aziza. When people realized how useful they were, they started looking for them more often. This caused the shy creatures to retreat further into the forest and avoid human contact more. The native Hawaiians believe in a people called the Menehune, who lived on the islands long before the Polynesians arrived. They were supposed to be about 60 centimeters, 2 feet tall, though some were no more than 15 centimeters or 6 inches. They were shy and not often seen by humans, but it's said that they liked singing, dancing, cliff diving, and archery. If a human was angry, they'd use magic arrows to pierce the person's heart and make them feel love instead. They were also excellent craftsmen and engineers, as they would build temples, fish ponds, roads, and more under the cover of night. Some stories say that the Menehune disappeared after the islands were settled by humans. However, others believe they are still there, causing mischief while hiding. In 1820, the official consensus of the Kauai even listed 65 Menehune as part of the official population. Whatever these beings are, it's a fact that some type of phenomenon is manifesting itself across all cultures and traditions, influencing the lives of everyday people. It seems we never get close to the truth, and perhaps we never will.